Welcome to another segment of the Dr. Marj Williams Show. You know, there's been a lot of information throughout the United States as it relates to the water and the quality of water that we're receiving as citizens. I try to bring information to you that is relevant to the African American community, but also to the greater Kansas City area. My guest today is Mr. Terry Leeds, and Mr. Leeds serves as the director for the Kansas City, Missouri Water Services. Welcome, Mr. Leeds.
Thank you for having me.
So back in about 2015, conversations started talking about the increase of water in the greater Kansas City area. Can you share with me how that came to be and what was the dialogue that was had that kind of surrounded the change that we would see?
So in the last 10 years, the city, through its Water Services Department, has increased its water rates. We do water, wastewater, and stormwater, and we send out one bill for all three of those utilities. But what we realized in the mid-2000s that we were behind in taking care of some of our infrastructure.
Yes.
And that manifested itself in two primary areas. One is water main breaks.
Yes.
More and more of those around the city. As I like to say, back in 2011, 2012, we had a lot of extra fountains in Kansas City.
Yes.
With all the water main breaks. And so we needed to raise our rates to the point where we could proactively start replacing water mains, the ones that are break prone. Okay. And then the other side of that, that's the water side. Right. But on the wastewater side, it's driven by the sewer overflows that Kansas City has. Mm-hmm. And we have a federal consent decree with the EPA that we negotiated to reduce the number and volume of overflows that we have from our combined sewage system and our separate sewage system.
So how does that happen? How do you decrease water overflows? And kind of go with me because I'm learning as we're going through this piece also. And I'll just use for an example, this past weekend on Saturday, it rained like crazy Saturday evening. And I was down on 18th Street and witnessed the level of the water. Was it because it couldn't get into the sewer fast enough, or, I mean, is that the flow issue we're talking about, that we cannot, the intake is not as quick as the water is coming down?
So in Kansas City, we have part of our city is has a combined sewage system. Okay. So during dry weather, the wastewater goes into pipes and gets pumped and gets treated and everything gets taken care of. But during wet weather, we don't have enough infrastructure to take all that flow. Okay. So the rainwater gets into the system by design, and at the bottom of the hill, to sort of speak, it overflows into the environment. We have 90 locations in Kansas City where that occurs when we have medium to hard rain. So
what happens? How do you get relief? I mean, I know that we put up the barriers, and you can see that when there's areas. So flood control is one thing, right? And we work with the city's Emergency Operations Center, and we coordinate barricades with other departments, Public Works and Parks Department, and the police and fire to barricade roads and to try and do our best to protect the public from the high water. Okay. But that's kind of a different issue than the Overflow Control Program, which is really driven by water quality. Yes. As you may recall, as a long-term resident there for a while, people were calling Brush Creek Flush Creek. Right, absolutely. And so that's kind of the heart of the issue with the combined sewer system, is that we need to reduce the overflows that overflow, a mixture of stormwater and wastewater into the streams. So we're talking about two different conversations or pieces of this conversation. One is wastewater and how we're able to corral it, basically. And then the other is the water that we use in our homes every day, that many of our citizens, their water bills have been impacted with the rate increase. And so what is the average amount of an increase that a person who is paying a water bill, which most of us are, would see on their bills monthly? So this current year that we just started, the May 1st, that's our city's fiscal year, our overall bill went up about $5 a month. Okay. So it's now, for what we call our average residential customer, it's about $102 a month. Largely how much water you use, it depends upon family size. Right. So the larger the family, you're going to use more water. I have 5 kids. So we use a lot of water. Okay. Versus someone who lives alone or a couple that would use less water.
And so we measure the amount of water that people use, and then we bill them accordingly for that.
And that bill comes out once a month now, as opposed to, I can remember a time when we were receiving the bill, I believe.
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
That's correct.
And so the reason why that changed was for what purpose?
Well, one, when we recognized that we needed to raise rates to deal with the infrastructure issues that we have, both on the water side and the wastewater side, we knew that the rates would be going up, and so it would be easier for people to budget on a monthly basis than it is on a bi-monthly basis to be able to pay their bill.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question about the segments of the city and the impact that this increase in the water has had. Because of the structure that you say that we have to take care of, do we see more repairs happening in the inner core of our city as opposed to the suburban areas, or is it about a balance? About, you know, as far as reconstructing and doing the work that needs to be done, because I know that we have some really, I don't want to say dilapidated, but areas that maybe we didn't take care of. And they may be at a disadvantage as opposed to some of our newer areas in the community. So is the impact more on the inner city?
So if we start with the water side, then we'll go to the wastewater side. On the water side, it's more about the era in which the pipes were constructed.
Okay.
And so our worst pipes are generally in water mains that were originally installed in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s.
Right.
And so that's, I'd say, more of a citywide effort.
Okay.
On the wastewater side, the combined sewer system that we have runs from the Missouri River down to about 85th Street, and from State Line over to the Blue River.
Okay.
So that would encompass a large portion of what we traditionally would say east of Troost areas. And so a lot of the older sewers need work. Okay. And so part of that investment we need to make is rehabbing the infrastructure, relining those pipes to rehab them as much as we can. Okay.
And then I know that you had said that the sewer bill, so when you get your bill, is it segmented where they show the amount you pay for water and then the amount you pay for sewer? And then the other part of that I want to ask is, I know that there's an opportunity for our community to, is it some type of insurance or coverage that you can pay, that if you have a water main break, that you don't, the cost doesn't get affixed to your bill? Can you share a little bit of information about that?
Sure. So briefly about the bill. The bill has a water charge, wastewater charge, and a stormwater charge. Okay. So those three components. But water and wastewater both have a monthly service charge.
Yes.
That's fixed no matter how much water you use or you don't use, and so does the wastewater.
Okay.
And then it has the volume charge for water, and then we use the water usage to determine on the wastewater side. So what you referred to is a service line warranty program.
Okay.
The city works with the National League of Cities, and they have a preferred provider that the city adopted, which is the Service Line Warranty of America. And twice a year, our residents throughout Kansas City get letters offering an insurance program for the infrastructure that we own as private property owners. So as an owner of a residential house, we own the water line from our house to the around the sidewalk. We own the sewer line from our house that goes out and connects to the sewer main. And so the Service Line Warranty Program is an insurance program in case you have an issue on those lines, that you can buy the insurance, and then they will come out and do the repairs for you. Okay.
And then lastly, I know that there's been a lot of conversation about the water in Flint. And we know that unfortunately that it has impacted residents in ways that we don't even think about, not only in drinking, but having it to use it daily for cooking and bathing in it. What happens, or what type of, I guess, programs or strategies are put in place that Kansas City doesn't become a Flint?
Right. So in Flint, Michigan, they have a couple of issues. One issue is they have a declining population.
Right.
So they have a lot less people to pay for the infrastructure. That's the same. So their rates are really high. The city was in management trouble, so the governor appointed an emergency manager and looking at different ways to cut costs. One of those costs was to bring back online an existing water treatment plant they hadn't used for years. And when they brought that back online, it changed the chemistry in the water.
Okay.
And the water chemistry change caused the degradation of the inside pipes. And that led to the lead being leached into the water, mainly in private service lines, but into the water. And it had other issues, color, taste, chunkiness. So in Kansas City, we have our water treatment plant that we constructed in the 1920s. Uses a very stable treatment process. So we actually build up a film on the inside of the pipe that coats the pipe and separates the pipe from the actual water that travels through it. In Michigan, what happened when they changed that source, that coating on the inside of the pipe went away and exposed the bare metal.
Okay, that's great information to know. If people needed more information about their water bill or resources to assist them, can you give them contact information on how they can reach you or who they should reach for that information?
Sure. So the easiest way for city residents is call 311 from your landline.
Yes.
And that will get you into the city system, and then you have an automated thing that can get it directly to us, or they'll create a service order that we'll follow up with. And so if you're on your cell phone, you want to dial 513-1313 and get you to the same point. And that's the best entry point to have for us.
And if I had to ask you, what is the most, or the question that you're asked the most as it relates to the new water rates, what is that question?
Well, people want to know why that we need to charge the rates that we do.
Okay.
And the simple answer is we have to reinvest in that infrastructure. Kansas City, not unlike other cities across the country, had underinvested in their infrastructure.
Yes.
And so as a country, in different metropolitan areas, they face similar issues that we do, that we needed to start replacing or rehabbing some of the infrastructure to provide good drinking water and safe wastewater services for our future generations.
Well, thank you for the information. I'm sure that many people have their questions answered, and hopefully they've been able to take down that information as it relates to contact. I always close the show by saying that we always talk about change and how important change is. We all know that if we're going to be the change that we want to see, that we have to be the people who are responsible for it.